Barrie, 22 years as a councillor comes to end tomorrow night. Take us back to 1988. Why did you become a councillor?
Well, I became a councillor then because quite honestly, I wanted to make a difference to the area, and I'd like to think 22 years later that I have made that difference.
In those 22 years, has local democracy, has the chamber changed at all?
The chamber has changed quite dramatically. Obviously, I've gone through, I counted the other day, probably 5 leaders of the council, and things have changed. And obviously, since 2004, it changed dramatically. And of course, one thing that was difficult to adapt to was going out of the majority group into the opposition group. But there's still work to do out there, and you can still do things, and you just move forward.
So, I guess we can talk about these themes as you're retiring. Sorry, is as a unitary borough, is it working?
Well, I believe it has. I think that we are masters of our own game, and we are not dominated by Essex County. We can do things for ourselves, and if we stay united, we can deliver, and delivering for the best for our children through education in particular is something that I saw as a challenge to us, and something I think we can deliver, and I think results eventually will show that it was the best way to go. We're not swallowed up as part of a big cog in a wheel.
You've always enjoyed in the chamber standing up. You're a natural politician in that way, and out and about in the borough. Are there any particular causes over the 22 years that you really enjoyed being part of?
Well, I think for me, obviously, you've covered quite a few of the major things. The Development Corporation saying they wanted to knock down half of the area. The business at Benton's Farm. There are just a couple of issues, and we've got quite akin to in Ockenden to big public meetings and hearing what the public have to say and taking on board what they have to say. And I think that it is a challenge to us, but it's a challenge I think we climb to. And for me, the importance of actually working with people and constituents in the area one-to-one is probably the best part of the job.
Do you believe that a councillor, whoever takes over from you, do you believe a councillor should live in the ward?
I think ideally, a councillor who lives in their patch, it is a good thing, because you get to know how people, what makes people tick. I can walk about South Ockenden and people will stop me because they know me and they'll talk to me about issues. I can pick up very quickly on things that are happening because I see them, and that's why public transport and things has always been a passion for me, because it's something that I use daily.
It's funny you mentioned public transport, because there's a recent controversy with the Tilbury ferry, and as often somebody said a lot of things people don't necessarily use them, but they would miss them from their whole lives, wouldn't they, if it went?
I mean, I have to say I've used the Tilbury ferry from time to time, and it's a wonderful service, and it's part of our heritage and our history. And I remember years and years ago campaigning to keep the ferry with the Lay brothers when they had it. So it goes back a long way, and I just hope that the ferry is a service that stays there for a very, very long time, and I hope people will use it. And it comes down to perhaps the old-fashioned plaudit: if you don't use it, lose it.
Well, you must be pleased to be getting out of the planning committee meeting. I mean, that is possibly one journalist says one of the most dysfunctional committees they'd seen in over 30 years.
Well, certainly I've always enjoyed my time on planning, and I think, but I would be incredibly frustrated if I was there at the moment. Because I actually think that the committee is mandated to make decisions, and the public expects us to make decisions, and whilst it's important that we take on board officer advice and listen to it, sometimes there is a bit more common sense way to go, and sometimes people expect you to go a different way. It's actually looking at the application, and we're being encouraged, quite rightly so, by the Standards Board, that we look at things, we go into meetings with a totally open mind, and I think that's the way that it should always be.
So why has it, you've been on planning committee meetings for many years, why has it descended into this committee, the members committee versus the officers committee?
Well, I don't think I would actually be able to say that I really know why we've got to this stage. I just think that the stage that we're in is somewhere where I would sit very uncomfortable. But I don't understand at this stage the nuts and bolts of what's actually happened and the decisions that have taken. But it could be, could be several reasons.
What's your advice to somebody in 2010 who wants to be a councillor?
I think for somebody who wants to be elected in 2010 is basically they need to be a people person. They need to be able to talk and work with their local communities. They need to be seen. They need to, to actually be part of their community and lead the community from the front. Something that I think I've succeeded in, but certainly there is a way to do it, and I think that's a sensible way.
How proud were you to be mayor?
Oh, I think the honour of being mayor is absolutely second to none. To be the senior member in the borough is absolutely a great honour, and memories that I forever will treasure. And to have the opportunity of talking the borough up wherever you go, and to actually remind people that we should be proud of Thurrock and not try to put it down, and to use that role to be able to do that and to have the opportunity of seeing what makes this borough tick. Is until you've actually done the job, you don't understand the intensity of it, and it's a great honour to do such a post.